Hi, I'm Phillips, European Tour winner and PGA coach, and in today's lesson I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make the perfect backswing. Okay, let's get stuck in. Okay, we want to find the perfect backswing for you. Okay, I know this video is called How Do We Make the Perfect Backswing, but we're all individuals and there is no perfect backswing that one suits all. Okay, what I want to give you here is a set of really important fundamentals that will enable you to find your perfect backswing position. So point number one, how do we get moving in the first place? Okay, I don't want to start talking about backswing playing in positions before we actually understand how to get the club moving fluidly. So first method we can try is a method used by Henrik Stenson in modern day golf. Sam Snead was a fantastic older player who used to do this same method, and it's a forward push method. Okay, so we set up at address, and if you Google Henrik Stenson you'll see this. If you do a YouTube search of Henrik, what you'll see him do at address is he will push forward with the rear hip, so the right hip for him. He will use the right knee and hip, and even his hands go a little bit forward, and he's basically pushing the club and his feet into the ground, and he's using that as a trigger to get that club moving backwards, like a springboard almost. So he's using the force of the ground to push the club backwards. Okay, he's not going from a dead start. Okay, he's not trying to start moving from nothing. He's creating momentum by using the ground. Okay, that's a great way to get started. Not for everybody. So another way to get started, let's look at someone like Sergio Garcia. Now Garcia has a number of very definite waggles. So you'll see him using his wrist joints there, just waggling the club backwards and forwards, and then after a set number, I think Garcia's 2 or 3, he did have a big problem with this at one point. He was waggling about 20 times. So taking that into account, I would recommend that you have a maximum 3 waggles and use that number of waggles as your trigger. So if you've decided on 3, as you're setting up, you will literally be subconsciously counting in your mind 1, 2, 3, and that's your trigger to go. So we're creating a few either physical or psychological triggers to get that club moving. Okay, very important part of the backswing. Now, if you are one of the rare individuals that feels very relaxed and comfortable by having the club on the ground, dead still behind the ball, and then just starting your motion, that's fine as well. So you need to experiment with those 3 ways. So making the perfect backswing, stage 1 is find out what your trigger is to get moving. Okay, so we've got the perfect trigger now. You've hopefully done a little bit of work on those 3 methods. You've chosen the one you like the best. Now I want to talk about something that's a little bit of a myth and a misconception with the backswing, and that is the mythical position that everyone talks about where the club shaft is parallel to the ground in the takeaway, and everybody says that it should be perfectly down your toe line and perfectly parallel to your ball to target line, otherwise you can't play good golf. Okay, now again, use YouTube, go on here and look for great players. Okay, and look for great players through a bit of a range of time if possible. Don't just look at one era. Try and find great players from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, okay, and modern day, and take a look at their backswings, and what you'll see is quite an array of positions at that moment in their takeaway. Okay, Jack Nicklaus used to be a little bit inside that position. Okay, we could look at Jim Furyk today, and he's way outside that position. So if we needed to be in a perfect position, those 2 guys wouldn't have achieved what they have. Okay, 2 of the greatest golfers that the game's ever seen in 2 completely different places. Now, by the same token, those 2 guys are obviously tremendously gifted, and they had the ability to practice all day, every day. So I wouldn't recommend that we try and be miles away from here, but I'm saying we can be one side or the other within an acceptable margin of error there, so we could be a little bit that way or a little bit this way and still play great golf. So don't get obsessed with positions in your golf swing. Okay, so that being said, how can we get the club moving that's going to get us somewhere around this position, maybe a bit that side or a bit that side, or you might be lucky and find that you do slot in to the perfect position. Okay, so what I recommend is you think of your takeaway as a body movement and not a hand and arm movement. Okay, so point number one is I'd like you to imagine that you've got a warm glow, if you like. Get some visual pictures in your mind. Imagine a nice orange warm circle here about the size of a small medicine ball, like you can see my finger making here as I'm demonstrating. And I'd like you to sense that this area is the area that's moving everything away from the ball. So you can see as I'm making this little small motion, it's definitely my trunk and center that's initiating that movement. My arms are just going with the motion of the body. Now, what's going to ensure that the arms do move with the body is if you sense a little bit of connection between your lead arm, the arm that's nearest to the target, and your trunk. So at address here, I'm just aware that I can feel my upper bicep, so somewhere between mid bicep and shoulder, I can feel that's touching my pec, I can feel that connection, and all I'm going to observe as I turn my trunk is that that connection is maintained. Okay, and if I do those two simple things, turn away with my trunk and maintain connection with the lead arm, what you're going to see is you're going to see that that club will naturally find somewhere very close to a textbook perfect position. Okay, so it might be a little bit inside it, might be a little bit outside it, depending on your body type, but you won't be a million miles away if you just focus on those two things. Now, the second phase of the backswing, if you like, where the club needs to start setting up, we need the wrist to start moving. Now, the grip pressure is vital to enable that to happen, and I'd like you, I'm going to use a cliche here because it really works, but I'd like you to have what I would call about a 6 out of 10 grip pressure. So the way you're going to find that is squeeze it as hard as you can to start with, so we'd call that 10 out of 10. You can't hold it any tighter, and then feel that pressure subside gradually until you get down to about a 6. Now again, that's subjective, but it's going to work. Okay, my 6 might feel different to your 6 depending on our forearm strength, but it doesn't matter, you'll still be holding it at a relative strength that will allow the club head to set at the right time. Okay, so if we use that one piece motion here, the momentum, if we've got the right grip pressure, will cause the weight of the head to flick up and set those wrists. You shouldn't need to consciously set the wrists. If you use the body properly with the right grip pressure, the wrists will set. Remember, the club head is the heaviest part of a golf club, okay? So the momentum will cause that to pull on your wrist joint, and you will get wrist set. It should be natural, it shouldn't be a conscious movement. Now, having said that, the way that they set and the angle that the shaft sets on will be dependent on what you do with your shoulders. Okay, so as we set this one piece motion going, we're using the trunk, we can feel that connection, got the right grip pressure, the club's going to start setting, but what's going to help it to set on the right angle is the way that we use those shoulders. So we've got to be careful. When we're set up at address, here you can see that my spine's tipped forward, and a big mistake a lot of amateurs make is when they start their backswing, they turn the shoulders and lift the trunk and get those shoulders on a very horizontal plane here, and straight away you can see that's got the club very flat and it's got me way too much on the inside. So what we need to focus on when we're making this one piece takeaway is that the lead shoulder feels like it actually drops, and you want to feel, you can see there my head just tilted a little bit to accommodate that, and you want to feel that lead shoulder is going underneath your chin. Okay, if the shoulder is high, you can see it's up high, almost above my chin, you know that those shoulders have lifted up out of position. So this is really key. Try to imagine that you're turning your shoulders on an angle that lead shoulder is pointing down at the golf ball, okay? So again, if I turn here, you can see that's pointing down at the ball. I've kept the shoulders on the right angle, the right plane, if you like, and that's going to cause those wrists to set very naturally there. You can see I've got that nice soft grip pressure, and as I tilt those shoulders, that just gets the club setting again roughly on the right angle. Now, if yours is a little bit steeper or a little bit flatter, it doesn't matter. Don't be obsessed with swing playing, don't be obsessed with any position in the swing. We can be a little bit that way, a little bit this way. We could be a little bit flat or a little bit steep. It's going to be very playable, okay? And what's going to keep you in those playable margins is focusing on these simple things. Shoulder tilt here, we don't want shoulders lifting. Shoulder tilt to get it on plane. One piece movement with the tummy in the backswing, and that little bit of connection in the left arm. So we can blend these things into one fluid motion. At address, I like to use a little bit of a push, so I'm going to push, turn away here, and I'm just going to keep moving all the way to the top of my swing, just observing that lead shoulder is pointing down. I feel like the shoulder's gone down under the chin, not up high. Let's go ahead. I'm going to hit this ball now, just applying all of those feelings. You're going to see that backswing's going to look pretty orthodox. So a couple of really simple keys there. Now in the next phase of the video, I want to talk about backswing length. So stay tuned, because I'm going to get into how you can determine what sort of leg action is right for your backswing. Okay, so using all those tips from the first part of this video to help us get our backswing on the right plane and to get us moving away fluidly, all the same things, but what I want to talk about now is how long your backswing is. What's the ideal backswing length? Now, I'm talking about longer clubs here, so something from maybe a 4-iron up to your driver, and that's what I'm referencing to give you the right guide and tools to find the right length backswing. So I've got a 4-iron here to illustrate. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take your smartphone or iPad or a camera, anything that you've got that you can take a video. It's very easily accessible these days. Okay, you can borrow one from a friend, I'm sure, but you need to get a video of your swing from this direction, and I want you to look for a couple of things, okay? And I want you to use your lead arm. So mine's the left arm that's nearest the target. You're going to use that arm like a needle, okay? And I want you to think of yourself as swinging in a clock face. Now 12 o'clock was directly above my head. Obviously we've got 11 o'clock here, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock here. So we're going to use the lead arm as a needle, and when you make a backswing, I want you to see when you've finished your backswing, when you're at the top of your backswing, I want you to take a look at that video, and I want you to see where your needle is pointing. Is it pointing at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or even 12 o'clock? If we look at Dustin Johnson with a driver, he's one of the longest in the world, obviously, and his lead arm is actually pointing straight up at 12 o'clock, so he's got a huge range of motion. Now, when you're doing this test, I want you to pay attention to your lead, leg and foot specifically, so the leg that's nearest the target, and I want you, when you do this test, to keep that lead foot on the ground and then assess where this arm is. Where is the needle pointing? 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. Now, with that foot on the ground, if your arm is not going beyond 10 o'clock, if it's 9 or 10 o'clock, you're not maximizing your distance, okay? You're not using enough leverage to hit the ball the most distance possible. Now, having said that, if you're already a very long hitter, you might be particularly strong, you might be 6'5", and very athletic, and you might hit the ball miles with a 9 o'clock backswing, that's fine, okay? Leave it there, leave it where it is, okay? But having said that, you could still hit it further if you wanted to get up to that 12 o'clock. But if you're hitting the ball far enough, you don't want to hit it any further, you're happy with your distance, that's fine, okay? However, if you are not happy with your distance, you're somebody that feels you get out driven a lot, you're a particularly short hitter, and your backswing is only 9 or 10 o'clock, we need to lengthen that backswing. Now, I'm one of those people that if I keep that lead foot on the ground and make my maximum turn, I've got a very short backswing. I'm not a particularly mobile person. It doesn't matter how much stretching I do or mobility. Mobility is largely genetic, by the way. I do a lot of stretching, a lot of mobility work, but my skeletal system is particularly stiff and rigid, and I don't have a lot of movement available to me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this ball now with my foot on the ground. You're going to notice that. I want you to look for my lead arm, this arm here, and you're going to see that it barely gets beyond 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's around that region. Watch this. Okay, so hopefully you saw there, I've got a pretty short backswing. That's just the movement that's available to me. So what I need to do, and what I recommend you do if you're the same, if you're in this same 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock position with that lead foot down, is we need to create more leg action, okay? We need to allow that lead foot to come off the ground. We need to allow the rear hip to rotate more. We need to allow the rear knee to straighten a little bit, okay? That's also going to allow more hip turn. But the key to facilitate all that is the lead foot and the lead knee. So you're going to see, I'm going to hit this other ball now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that foot come off the ground, okay? I'm going to let my knee swing across a little bit more. I'm going to let my rear hip rotate a little bit more, and I'm going to get up to much nearer to an 11 o'clock position. So my lead arm is going to get much more up to 11 o'clock now, and that's going to give me more leverage and more time to generate speed, okay? Length of swing is a good indicator of the time available to generate maximum speed. There are not many long hitters in this world with short backswings, okay? It's a pretty common denominator. You get the odd exception, but if you go on YouTube, all the long hitters in the world that enter the world driving competitions, they've all got incredibly long swings. John Daly had an incredibly long swing. He was the longest hitter in the 80s and 90s on PGA Tour. Dustin Johnson's the longest now with Rory McIlroy. They're both up at that 12 o'clock position. So they can do that, keeping their foot down. They've got incredible flexibility that's available to them. If you haven't got that flexibility, you need to create more leg action, the correct leg action, to facilitate more movement. So watch this. You're going to see me release the lead heel, you're going to see more hip turn, more leg action here, and it's going to enable me to get more range of motion and get more distance. Much freer movement. That's the movement that I prefer because I'm a small guy. I don't hit the ball a long way if I don't allow my legs to move effectively. So if I tried to copy Rory McIlroy's leg action, I'd hit the ball nowhere, okay? I need more leg action, I need more hip turn, and that enables me to get more rotation in my spine. That is very important for distance. So go do that test. Use your arm as a needle, find out where it's pointing on the clock face, change the leg action according to your preferred distance. If you want to hit the ball maximum distance and you can't get up to 12 o'clock, use the legs in that particular way. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Head over to my website www.vanphillips.co.uk. There's a wealth of information on there, 20 years of experience and research playing with the best golfers in the world on the world tours.